Welcome to this week's Personal Selling Weekly. And today we will really dive into why the first 3 minutes of a sales call is so crucial. And I think in Denmark we have this saying, "God begyndt had fuldendt," or, if you get on to a good start, you're almost at the finish line. And I'll say that really knowing how to craft a good beginning in a meeting will just make it so much more easy for you, because it's like putting a train onto the rails. If they're on the right rail, you you can just add a few coals and then it will move without any effort. But if you're on the wrong trail, almost anything you will do will not lead you to where you actually want to go. And I think the reason why these first 3 minutes are so crucial is that, in a way, they set up the whole frame, the mindset for what the meeting is about. So when you know and you understand how to really craft this beginning, I think you will be up for a much more easy life working with your customers. And again, what happens in these first 3 minutes is really the fact that you are either setting the frame or you're living within the frame that the customer is already having in their mind. And having a meeting where the frame the customer is working from and the frame which you work from, which are actually the same frame, is really what is the basis for, I think, a good, healthy dialogue, which can lead to really incredible results. So I think this is really where we would like to inspire you a little today on how do you do that? How do you do this not randomly, but actually by purpose? So you could ask, so what do you actually mean about framing? I would say that the frame is, you see, the purpose of the meeting. And again, the customer can have a purpose, you can have a purpose. This purpose can be more or less outspoken, more or less pre-conscious. So I think the more you're conscious about the purpose of the meeting, the more you can also bring it into the open, so that you and the customer can actually explicit agree upon the purpose and thereby the frame of the meeting. And again here, because again, this frame is creating the filter through which the customer will understand everything which is being discussed in the meeting. And that's why it's so powerful, important to know how to really pre-frame the meeting. And if the frames which the customer have in mind are not really optimal, understand how you can reset, or what we call reframe, the whole meeting, so that it can end up being productive for the customer and for you. And then you could ask yourself, but how do we do that in a smooth, elegant way? And one of the tools, one of the techniques we have seen work very well is to use what we call a yes set. And a yes set is a series of statements or questions which match how the customer experiences the world. And what you're getting here is not only the frame, but you also start to create a momentum for yes in the mind of the customer. And I think having these two things in place in the beginning of the meeting will just make it much more easy for you and the customer to move together in that meeting going forward. So I think these are the two things we would like you to have in mind when you think about how to design the first 3 minutes of a meeting. So how does a successful or a productive yes set and framing, how does it actually sound or look like? And I would say that typically when I go out and have meetings with my potential customers, it's often centered around how we can train our employees becoming better in selling or in leading. And so again here, instead of just jumping into it, I often find myself saying things like, "Wow, thank you for inviting me for this meeting today. And as I understand, we have agreed to spend 1 hour discussing the skills of your leadership team in your sales force globally." And I work from this idea that your leaders already have skills in place, because otherwise, why would they be here? I also work from the idea that some of them are already seeing results, great results, with some of the things they're doing. So I think, again, moving into this meeting today, I would really like to hear from you what skills, what mindset is already in place in the organization. What is it that we don't have to train your people in doing, because they already do it well, so that we can spend most of the time in this meeting discussing what you would like to add or build on top of what's already there, so that we can really, again, be productive in this meeting. Because discussing or presenting ideas, bringing in skills, strategies, mindset that's already in place will just be a waste of time. So, and then I will lead from here into the first question, which will basically be, so what is it that your sales managers on average do well today in your global organization? And then we lead the meeting from there. So again, you could ask yourself, so what would happen if you don't set the right frame? I think in the best case, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You will have a nice chit-chat going here and there and everywhere. But I think often what happens is worse than nothing. It will be counterproductive, because even though you're a nice guy, the customer are polite, they will end up with this feeling that they have been wasting their time with you. I think that's almost the worst thing which can happen, because then the chance that they will invite you back later will be minimal. So again here, not having the same frame in mind will lead to misunderstandings, will lead to the customer who have this sense that, wow, we are not really on the right track here. And if you as a salesperson don't really get them, understand them, what would happen with the customer think if I end up buying from this person? If we're already having issues here, what could that develop into in 1 month, 3 months, 1 year's time? So I think a lot of things which customers buy from their suppliers is the certainty that it will be easy to work with them, that they get suppliers that easily and fast understand what they want and need, so that they don't have to spend a lot of energy and time explaining and re-explaining and re-explaining what they want. That people are simply too busy to want to spend their life that way. So if they have a sense that in the meeting with you, they spend their time in an effective, productive way, they will project that into the future together with you and say, wow, if this hour can be so productive, most likely the next year or the next 5 years could also be productive. You could ask yourself, so what is it that I can do to really create these powerful frames, to create these 3 fantastic first minutes? And again, as I said, your meetings always start before your meeting starts. So again, what I typically recommend is that before you even show up at the meeting, that you yourself prepare, that you yourself ask yourself the question, what is the purpose of this meeting? And again, the purpose is seldom to get the order, especially not if you have sales cycles, which is longer than 3 to 6 months, and this is the first meeting. So again, it's really important to set an outcome, a purpose for a meeting, which really is aligned with where you are in the buying cycle of the customer. That's one element. The other element is that go back and think about what was it that the customer actually agreed to meet with you about, and then create a frame that supports these 2 elements. And then I will promise you that the first 3 minutes of the meeting can be really productive, because when you know what you want, you have a clear idea about what the customer wants, you can design a yes set, which will bring the customer into this yes momentum, which will bring you into the rest of the meeting in a smooth, elegant way. What I recommend is that you take the ideas from today and think about them in a relation to a meeting you're going to have within the next few days. in your mind, you can maybe already see the customer for your inner eye. And you can ask yourself, wow, what would be a fantastic outcome for this meeting? What is it that I most want to get from this meeting? What is it that the customer actually wants from this meeting? And how could I start out the meeting by setting the scene so that we end up working from the same frame, leading into a meeting where we can have an open, frictionless dialogue around how I can help the customer get that. So I think that would really where I would like you to spend a few seconds to think about this so that you can bring it into your life and actually start to practice it. And again, if you want to know more about this, go and read our book Satisfaction Selling, where we are laying this out as the second and third C in the satisfaction selling method.